gotta believe in that. I didn't want this for you.
It's time, David.
I didn't agree to any of this.
You can't escape your fate.
I already did it twice. It's not luck anymore.
It's time to end it.
You know what? For once, I believe you. Forgive me, Matt.
How did you miss?
You know, I'm not entirely sure that it was loaded when I picked it up. Yeah. So, question, were you like an actual zombie, or was that just you for the sake of the joke?
Yes.
Alright. Fuck you. We watched a movie today. Right, sorry. Right.
Night of the Day of the Dawn, the Son of the Bride of the Return of the Revenge of the Terror of the Attack of the Evil Mutant Alien, Flesh-Eating Hellbound, Zombified Living Dead Part 2, and Shocking 2D.
Shocking 2D.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
So, for the sake of any time we're going to say the title in this, we're either going to say Night of the Day of the Dawn or
Not that.
Not Dot, which is N-O-T-D-O-T. Figure that out for yourself.
It's because Wikipedia said it was okay.
Backstory on this, not our personal backstory, but the backstory of the movie. This is a redubbing of George Romero's
Night of the Living
Night
Dead.
of the Living Dead with some bonus parts added in from the filmmakers themselves.
And it's done very Cure for Insomnia, where it has no rhyme or reason.
And it seems like it's all done in one take, but we have no evidence of that. Backstory on our personal involvement in this. This is the third time we've tried to watch this.
The first time happening actually in season 1,
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
it was over a year ago.
And it probably over 2.
Yeah.
It's like, and the thing is though, we got about 5 minutes into the movie and then we had to stop.
It was terrible.
Then enough time had passed, we were like, okay, well maybe our memories is just playing it up. Maybe it wasn't that nearly as bad. You know, we were also kind of saying it's like we had come back again from kind of going through some
We've
of
done
our
1313 and all that.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, well, I guess it cannot be
We're
nearly as
gonna
bad.
handle it.
Went to it again. Still less than 5 minutes before we turned it off again and switched to something else.
But now that it's Halloween time-ish, monthy, whatever here, decided to give it another shot.
And we did finish it.
We did.
I'd be hard pressed to tell you what happened.
It took all of our effort not to die. But I'll go ahead. I'm going to give...
I actually know what the plot is.
Of this movie?
Yes. And it's very simple. It's one sentence.
Oh, okay.
Group of people trapped in a house by zombies want to go get food.
See, I feel like you're right for the entire latter half, but the first half, they were doing this whole...
Before that, though, like, you know, it was just congregating people.
Yeah.
All right, I'm basing this off of the fact... All right, I've obviously seen Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, so have I.
We'll be basing this off of the fact that, let's just say, the old dubbing in the movie never happened, and this literally is just the story.
It was a silent film.
And the problem begins with this. Now, all right, this is the closest thing to what we have done before as a green film, which was the only other one that we decided to do with that was Sex Galaxy.
Sex Galaxy.
And some of y'all, for some reason, decided to watch that episode more than anything else, you fucking perverts.
How disappointed they must have been.
But, yeah, I know, seriously. But, either way, the fact of the matter is, though, all of this movie has been redubbed by a person. The credits claim multiple people. Mm-hmm. I don't buy it.
Nah.
Even if it's true, I still don't buy it. But at the same time, it was kind of like what Woody Allen did with What's Up Tiger Lily, where he redubbed the voices. The only difference being is that he actually used actors in that. This one, there's so many characters that sound exactly the same, and they talk to each other.
Yeah. There's one scene where it's like a scientist and a reporter on TV, and he just
Same voice.
He gave up on voices at that point. He was like, yeah, they're the same guy, whatever.
Now, I will say, though, when it came to the actual dubbing, 3 times in this script, or I guess you could say in the movie itself, but 3 times I actually laughed at the jokes. And it happened in the very beginning of the movie. It happened a little bit closer toward the last third of the movie, and then it happened like near the end of the movie, and that was about it. Now, this kind of reminds me of those really old, really bad drive-in films from the 60s that had sound that was so awful they just decided to recut all the audio in a studio. There was one that was a Dracula movie. The Cinema Snob did it a very long time ago. I don't remember all the names for it. But at the same time, that basically what it was that the audio was so bad, they did the entire thing with a comedy track with a couple people in a sound booth. The only difference is, I can actually buy the difference between the characters.
Yeah. Okay, so
I will say, the one part that was funny, even though it was racist as shit, was when the black character, obviously voiced by a white dude,
yeah,
is doing this whole thing to the female character, and he's doing this like half-assed like hip hop like spoken word slam poetry shit,
yeah.
and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, all right, if this wasn't racist as shit, it would be funny.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to the fact of the matter is as though it's way too obvious that I think. At most, I'm guessing 2 people did the voices of this. And
no, I just checked on IMDb. The only person credited for voices, which they could have easily lied. Whatever. James Riffel.
And that was the director.
Editor.
So yeah, we bought it. So that's, if that's one way or another, I mean, IMDb is a glorified Wikipedia, so we don't really know for 100% certain. This movie was dubbed. I would not say shot. This movie, except for a couple pieces, this movie was shot in 91.
Here's the thing, and
14 years ago.
I'm very confused to this point.
Well, actually, no, 24 years ago. What am I talking about?
I'm actually confused at this point of there was pan and scan throughout the entire movie. Now, if you're not entirely know what that is, if it's typically done when a widescreen film is put into a full screen like TV syndication.
Or in like a VHS and whatnot. That was very, very common.
What they do is they can't get all of the content into that, so rather than squish the frame in, they move the focus of the thing throughout the frame. So
if you see anything that says full screen edition on DVDs, that's what it's doing.
Right.
There's no movies that are shot at full screen unless it's 4:3, and usually that's like old films before widescreen was invented.
Now, that's not typically regarded as a good thing by filmmakers.
No.
But that's whatever. If this guy just happened to get his hands on it, what do you know if Night of the Living Dead was shot in widescreen?
No.
You do not know, or no, it wasn't?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It was if it was shot at full screen, but however, all right, pan and scan is you're actually what pan and scan actually is doing is you're pan and scanning the image. You have a machine that literally is recording the image, and you move the image around.
Right.
Now with pan and scan can destroy movies because think about this: Blade Runner is one of the best movies visually. Put that movie into pan scan, it destroys everything. But this movie, I don't know if it was maybe the copy of that we watched because we found it on YouTube. And that's the only place
I'm not going to feel bad.
No, that's the only place we'll be able to find it. So maybe the copy itself was that way because
you know what?
How about
this? Real quick, link to it.
No, it's
right there.
All right.
There you go.
It's YouTube possibly fixing the stabilization issues.
Maybe.
And whatnot. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they just click little auto-stabilize.
Yeah, either way. One way or another, it jumps all over the goddamn place.
Here's the thing about it. It's distracting as fuck sometimes. Sometimes it's fine. It's very nice little thing. But occasionally, it's like they focus on one shot for a while, and they get the guy all perfectly like aligned in it. And then it goes to another shot, and they're like, oh, pan scan. And it just like jars you into this new shot. And I don't know. It doesn't feel good. It feels bad. The other thing, technically, that we need to speak about is the sound effects and the music. I'm going to do those two separately, starting with the sound effects. He did it on a fucking keyboard.
He did it on the keyboard, but
Everything. And I'm not talking about like a keyboard.
he also did it with his mouth.
Oh yeah, well that was something.
He did a lot of sound effects with his mouth.
He did organic things with his mouth, and he did inorganic things with the keyboard.
Same thing with the music.
To explain,
To agree.
to explain that, now modern keyboards, a lot of them, really good ones, they have like 1,000 instruments that you just
Kick drum beats and all sorts of
They
stuff.
have drums, they have horns, they have strings, they have everything.
Back in the 90s,
This was 1991.
when Casio keyboards on the commercial market were really just hitting the scene.
So what they had was one drum machine, one little percussive. So when he wanted to fire a gun, when he had a hammer hitting a nail, and that doesn't sound so bad, but just imagine this guy is hammering like, and they all overlapped with each other, so they had a bit of an echo to them. It's like,
it became very evident after a certain point, because also then the music, let's talk about the music, because it's tied automatically to the keyboard.
yes.
A lot of this was already on the keyboard, because my sister had a Casio keyboard when we were growing up, and it was the exact same shit.
Mm-hmm.
It was playing stuff like the Battle Hymn of the Republic and Take Me Down to Dixie and stuff like that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best way of getting copyright-free music. Use the pre-recorded sounds on your Casio keyboard.
Oddly enough, they had that song, but then they overlaid it with like a hip hop beat. It was strange. And sometimes the one song faded out and the hip hop beat stayed. Sometimes the hip hop beat faded out and the one song stayed. It's like, oh yeah, I gotta keep playing them.
What I feel really happened with the sound recording here, and I agree with David that part of it definitely sounds like it was done in one take. What I personally think he did was that he went through each scene. He did the voice of one person, he did the voice of another person, unless they weren't overlapping in any way, and then he went back and he recorded the background sounds. Or even better, he recorded all that stuff in reverse. He recorded the music, the background sounds, and whatnot, just slowly raising the volume of everything. And then the last thing, he recorded the voices. So that's why everything seems like they're matched up, but really everything's kind of playing over the same tracks.
Really, when I said that the first time, I started paying attention to it. Nobody ever talks over each other. Like, period. You have on-camera voices. You have things like radio and TV for background voices. And then you have sound effects.
Which sometimes will just be tons of babbling by incoherent voices.
So at most, maybe he watched it like or at minimum, he watched it like 4 times through and recorded something each time.
And a couple of these scenes don't seem like they're scripted out to a degree.
Right.
Other scenes just sound like he's just fucking around.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it, but it definitely wasn't good. And I don't know. It was.
I can't say much about the acting or anything like that because, there's also several points in the movie when we actually get back to the original footage that was shot for this.
That's okay. I need to real quick step in on that.
Okay.
Occasionally, you would hear in the background, and it had no bearance on the plot or whatever, of like a phone ringing or just a mild mumbling that, like, when there was no other characters.
Or TV sounds like.
So I'm like 99% sure that this dude was just like recording it in his basement, and people kept interrupting him. And every time that happened, he would just cut away to this original footage, so that he could get back into the original stuff, or the George Romero stuff, without it seeming, weird, like a jump cut.
Well, it's all weird. I mean, there were certain cuts away where we're like, we have landed in hell.
Yeah.
This is what hell is like.
So let's hear, there were profiles in history.
No, there was this, I made this comparison earlier. If any of you guys have ever seen the Showtime show, Masters of Horror, John Carpenter has an episode on there with Norman Reedus called Cigarette Burns, which is about a movie called, what was it? The Absolute End of the World. And it's a movie that makes people who watch it go insane and go, like, homicidal. I think we found the movie. Or actually, you know what? No, let me rephrase. Because a lot of this, obviously, is Night of the Living Dead. All these intercut spots, yeah. I think they're from that movie. I think they've intercut some of these little pieces of, like, especially there's this one part with this puppet.
Yeah. God damn.
Which is terrifying.
He's just, right.
And it just sounds terrifying.
There was another part called Profiles in History where a guy would
which kept coming back
3 times. He would take an anecdote from some historical something or another, put up a picture of someone totally different, and then say, like, Calvin Coolidge was known for being so quiet. One time he went to a party
and also
and a girl made a bet that he could get him to say more than 2 words. When he went up to Calvin, Calvin said, "You lose." And then back to the movie. What the fuck?
I'm also pretty sure that these little anecdotes are not actually from these real people. Because I've heard these stories and whatnot before with different names, so I don't think they originated with that.
I knew the Calvin Coolidge one was about Calvin Coolidge, because that's where I originally heard it, but all the rest of them, there was like Edgar Allan Poe. I originally heard it with Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a whole bunch of shit. And then, occasionally, this only happened, I think, 3 times. They just worked in... There's 2 things I need to talk about. They just worked in titles. Like, just plain titles, or occasionally someone holding the title.
There was one person, actually, at one point that said, "Sorry, Mr. Romero, for ruining your masterpiece." I'm like, these were self-aware people for this. So that's one of the reasons why I can't exactly bash on this movie that much, because this is their intended effect.
But then there was the one, exactly, and this is how you know it's that, 20 minutes from the end, we're sitting there wanting to die, and then they had a title pop up saying, "Don't worry, it's almost over." And it's like, oh, okay, great, thanks.
Give us a little motivation to get toward the end there. And the end in and of itself drags on for a bloody eternity.
Right, but I mean, it's still, it's basically just like ending credits pretty much, except they don't show any credits, they just show footage. Not even from the movie.
New York.
Yeah, the city. The one other thing is they have intercut in there, I don't even know why, with the audio still running in the background, original footage of some guy mooning the camera.
I mean, there was a random scene where in John Waters' Pink Flamingos while a guy's asshole goes booba uma mau mau, but that is actually more bearing on that story than this one on this one.
Here's the thing. I don't give a single fuck. This movie, you notice if you go back to the beginning, Night of the blah, 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 Part 2. Now you think they just did that to expand on the title, to make it just a little bit longer and a bit more weird. No, this is part of a 5-part series.
Now, the last of which was released in 2011.
Yes. Now, these are incredibly difficult to find, to the point where Part 1 is practically impossible.
Well, Part 1 is impossible because there's only 1 copy left, and it's in his parents' place.
So there is no way to see all 5 parts. Part 2 is the earliest you can get in.
And good luck trying to find Part 3 through 5.
I will never, as long as I live, watch Part 3 through 5. And if I'm tricked somehow into watching parts 3 through 5, at that point I'm just going to give up. At that point I'm sitting in my room. I'm not leaving anymore. Can we just get into the final thoughts? Because I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing is, though, the problem is with choosing a movie like this is that you can't necessarily comment on all of the aspects of it because it's a reappropriated thing.
Yeah.
One of our issues with Sex Galaxy. The thing that with Sex Galaxy, which we were able to get away with in the previous episode, is that fact that because it was a green film, it used a lot of footage pieced together from tons of different things.
That, and also, they weren't exactly good things. This was a quote-unquote masterpiece. This was George Romero's... This is the quintessential zombie film, more or less.
It changed zombie movies forever.
So you're taking a great thing, and you're just shitting on it.
And the thing is, though, like, you know, even though David hasn't seen the movie, but I have, like, yeah, of course, by today's standards, it's not a shocking movie one way or another. But at the same time, putting the movie in the context of when it came out, yeah, the movie is a masterpiece. Now, unlike the rest of the movies in this series, that all of them are basically parody riffs for the most part. They're not even riffing the movie; they're parody dubs. And like the next one in part 3 was The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which is not a good movie. If you've seen MST3K or anything like that, you know it's a shitty movie. But the thing is, though, this is the one movie in all of these films that is actually considered not only to be a good movie, but also to be considered to be a classic. I think the reason they were able to get away with that is because it's in the public domain, so they're able to get away with it without having to pay any copyright. And that's also, I think, probably one of the reasons why Part 2 is, I mean, comparatively, especially to the other installments, is so easy to find. Yeah. Because it's Night of the Dead. It's Night of the Living Dead. And even though technically its original title was Night of the Flesh Eaters, which has no bearing on this review whatsoever. But, alright, to wrap up in my summation of these thoughts, it's just a stupid dub. I'm surprised, and you know, there was one part for about a span of a minute or two where I faded out.
Yeah, I was sitting here the whole time, and every once in a while I looked over at Matt, and I was just, hey.
I was watching it a lot with like this, like with one eye open type of deal. And yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, but other than that, yeah, the movie is the only thing that we can say is that, hey, we watched this.
Yeah. For me, if you, I don't even know how to begin with this.
You're just angry?
Well, the thing is, it hurt for the first 5 minutes. It hurt because we were good before that. We were okay. Everything was groovy. But then within those 5 minutes, it just... But once it hit that bottom, once it hit the point where we quit before, it never got any worse.
No.
It wasn't like it progressively got worse over the film. It was, here's how bad your expectations should be set at, and keep it there for the entirety of the movie. Occasionally, it got a little bit up, but it was very tiny.
And it was only like a heartbeat,
and it went
too.
Immediately
it didn't,
down.
like, raise a plateau. It just went beep.
Yep. So, I wouldn't say it's like... and I can't even judge it on, like, the normal things that I judge it on. Because when you come down to a green film, especially a riff like this, where it's a single film and it's not being edited that much, you are going to be hard-pressed to get a coherent plot to flow with that. With all the reactions and everything like that, it's extremely hard to do. Which means, why do it? I mean, I understand if you just want to, like, riff a movie. Fine, riff a movie. Don't sell it as its own shit.
Well, to be fair, for this movie, considering the fact that the first one originally only played on public access, I have a feeling that I was the only widest range for this film that the audience was actually going for.
And that's fine. So, I understand that. But then don't sell
they couldn't expect it's like, what? Who are these obscure fuckers on the internet?
But... why sell it as its own shit? I mean, the fact that riff tracks exist, where people take the movies and add their own shit into it, fine. All this is a riff, except you have to delete the original audio. Which, I don't even know what to classify that as. Just a redubbing.
Yeah, it's a redub, that's all. It's a comedic dub.
All in all, it's a redub. I'm not going to say comedic.
That's its intended effect.
Its intended effect failed. When it comes down to this movie, watching it, no. Listening to it, no. There's no reason to have this film on. I can't speak for the other parts, but this one in particular, no. And that was not Dot.
Not Dot.
Not Dot.
Not Dot. And shocking 2D. Do you know any other zombies?
Well, I mean, actual literal zombies? No, but are we talking metaphorical, like, you know, what zombie movies are trying to...
Well, that's a bit of a complicated question, because, you know, in Shaun of the Dead, it's kind of like there's not a difference between the two.
Right, I understand. But when Shaun of the Dead, it was partially literal and partially metaphorical. So then
All the bad boys want some more.